In this tutorial, we explain how you can configure your company environment. In Bizztracker terminology, a company environment is called a community. When you create a new community, a number of settings need to be checked to make sure that it fits your needs. Initially, we suggest that you start with validating the financial settings. There are 6 settings which you can change for your community. The display format of the numbers, do you choose a European or an American display? The currency in which all values should be entered in the system, the factor in which the values are displayed, you can choose between different multipliers, and the next 3 settings are used for calculating the net present value of your projects. You can enter the discount rate, the number of years to take into account, and the tax percentage. Next in the screen, you see the finance line types. You cannot add or delete any of these types, but you can change the name of the line types. In that case, click the Edit button and change the name or abbreviation as you wish. After adjusting the settings, you can click the button Apply Changes. Finally, there is an option to define additional finance amount types. These are the financials that you record on project level. Default financial types are budget and actuals. So if you want to use additional types, like a rolling forecast, you should add this type here by clicking the Create Type button. Enter the abbreviation and name for it and click Apply Changes. Then, on project level, you will be able to add the values for this finance type. Let's go to the statuses that you want to use on project and portfolio level. A number of statuses are defaulted by the application and cannot be changed, for example, draft and deleted. If you want to add a status, click Create Project Status and add the name, a shortcode and optionally a description. Click Apply Changes to save the status. Next, you can enter the strategic objectives of your company. Each project can then be scored on the different strategic objectives. If you don't want to use the strategic objectives in this community, the application can still be used. Only there will be some strategic built-in reports that you cannot use as there will be no data for it. Click on the button Create Objective. You can now enter the name and optionally a description. By default, the weight of the objectives is set to a value 1. The weight is an indicator of the relative importance of this strategic objective compared to the others. Suppose you have 2 strategic objectives. If you are defining the weight for both objectives at 1, they are equally important. However, if you change the weight of the first objective to a value 3, this objective is considered 3 times as important as the first objective. So in calculating the total strategic score for the project, this comes into play. Let's continue with the segmentation. In this tab, you can configure a number of custom fields. On the one hand, you can define the categories or perspectives on which projects or portfolios need to be scored on. Think of it as a label that you put on a project or portfolio. These labels will be filters that you can apply on your lists or reports, so they are very valuable for analyzing and monitoring project portfolios. Examples are regions, market trends, functional area, business urgency, legal obligation, and so on. So let us show you how you can configure a new category to be used on project level. Click the button Create Category. You will now be guided through the setup process. Choose Projects in the Flex field type and then click Next. Now select the type of field. Are the values a date, number or text? Then give your label a name and select whether it has to be filled in mandatory or whether it is optional. You can also provide a help text for the user to make sure that they understand what is meant with this field. When done, click Next. You can now select whether the field should be free text, either a big text area or a normal text field, or a drop-down list of values. Remember that only a field with a predefined list of values will be shown in the lists and reports as a field on which you can filter the data. Fields with free text cannot be used as a filter. For this example, we will select a select list. Now you can choose either a static list of values, which you can define in the next step, or a pre-configured list of values which you have uploaded already before to the system. For now, we select static list of values. The next step is to define the values for our drop-down list. Click the button Add More List Items, and now you can enter the different values that you want to display in your list. When done, click Next. In this screen, you now only should define whether this field should become available immediately or not yet. For this example, we select Yes, and we click the Confirm button. Now the field product line is defined. On each project, this field is now visible and can be filled in. There are two more parameters that you can configure on community level. These are both optional. In the tab Resources, you can define critical resources and their availability. Although Bizztracker is not a detailed resource planning tool, it does give you the possibility to define high level which resources you have available. On project level, you can then define if you need one of these resources, in which period and for how much time. On portfolio level, you can then evaluate if the resource demand fits with the availability. To add a resource, click Create Resource and enter a name and the availability in hours per week. Then apply the changes by clicking the button. This resource is now added and can be used on project level in case this resource is required for the project. Finally, you can also configure documentation types. This is most commonly used to track if specific documents are already made available on a project. In this example, we have created already 4 document types. That means each project should eventually have these documents and uploaded them either directly in the application or by adding a link to the document. Let's create an additional document type. Click the button Create DocuType, enter the name for the document type and optionally a description. Click Apply Changes to add the type. Now, for each project, this document type will have a red stoplight, as we have not added it yet to any project. In summary, you can configure quite a lot in Bizztracker. With this tutorial, you luckily don't need any implementation consultants to do so. For any other questions about the use of Bizztracker, visit our website and browse to our Academy.